McConnell versus Trump. Big exciting news and great news as all indicators are off about the races for the Senate. We simply just don't know what's going to happen. Everyone had said the Senate's going to go this way, Senate's going to go that way. Everyone said that Mitch is fighting against Donald. Oh, no, 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 darling. It's literally an open race. No one can predict where anything is going. But ultimately, that lack of prediction helps your stimulus. It's great news because the path of the highway is no longer just her way. It's actually going the purple power way. Uncertainty breeds development and breeds progress. And we're getting closer to getting your second stimulus. This is McConnell versus Trump. Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Great, exciting news across the board. I'm so glad you joined me on a big day of McConnell versus Trump, which ironically has become sort of the misnomer video of this channel because it's actually McConnell and Trump versus everyone else. We thought several days ago they were versus, but actually they're working as a team. The question is whether you and I are working as a team. If you're not, then you should go to the Funds channel, subscribe, become part of this team. The best channel there is out there to get your second stimulus, your third stimulus, your first stimulus package, all that money you're owed, and understand how and where it goes. Also, like this video. In this video, I will be going over why the Senate races have become very uncertain. I'll also explain why I'm back inside. Yeah, I was outside a second ago, now I'm back inside. I'll explain to you why these Senate races are really up for grabs and ultimately why that's good for your second stimulus. Oh boy, really exciting news. All right, let's get to the breaking news. The breaking news is that no leading news publication can simply even predict what's going to happen on the Senate on election night. And now, after I told you a few days ago that Georgia could ultimately hold up the entire possibility of where your stimulus check is coming, is apparently getting closer than ever before. Let me explain what's going on. The Senate is currently dominated by Republicans. The House is dominated by Democrats. The Democrats thought that they could take the Senate back from the Republicans. Their plan was the following. Don't give you a second stimulus. Wait to election night. Capture the Senate from the Republicans and give you stimulus relief next year the way they want to do it, the Democrats. And they hoped that they could do it. Well, two things went awry. First, the almighty dollar. The Senate Democrats who don't want to spend money on you, guess what? Their big donors don't want to spend money on them either. The House Democrats who don't want to give you more than a $1,200 stimulus check or a $500 stimulus check if you are a child, or a $1,000 stimulus check if you're a retired vet on someone else's tax return, also had problems getting donations from their own donors to unseat the GOP in the Senate. And what happened on Monday? Well, the Monday happened with a big win for the GOP in the Senate. They got the confirmation of Judge Barrett, or Justice Barrett. And with that, the Senate GOP obtained record donations never seen before in the last few days before election. Enormous millions of dollars came into the Senate GOP to preserve their seats. The question is whether they're going to get it done. And this comes as news as Mike Bloomberg, the presidential candidate who ran against other Democrats for the primary and ultimately pulled out, is being touted by Chuck Schumer to give millions and millions of dollars to unseat the GOP in the Senate, and he doesn't want to do it. He doesn't think it's a race that his money's worth it. He thinks he may not get anywhere with that. So, what's important to understand for your second stimulus is that the Temple of Doom has always thought she could hold up your stimulus because she could win the Senate from the Republicans. Now that may not happen, and ultimately she may have to finally not do her highway. She may have to do the road or turn to a toad. Second, the finality of the election may not occur on election night. And I'm not talking about the presidency. Oh, no, 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 no. I'm talking about the Senate. Yes, a major new report issued minutes ago from NPR suggests that there's upwards of 13 seats. Yes, 13 in the Senate that are so close, no one can predict them. But it's just even worse than that. Let me explain. Well, good for you, but worse for them. Even more problematic is this, that in Georgia, remember that state of Georgia, which I keep on hitting on real hard? The state of Georgia may not even know who has won the seat to determine the balance of power in the Senate until next year. Now, you may sit back and say, oh, no, I'm not going to get my stimulus next year. No, 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 no. This is why you get your stimulus earlier. Let me go over this and more right now. NPR says Republican Senator Dave Perdue is running against Democratic John Ossoff, best known for running and losing a high-profile 2017 special election in the U.S. House seat. Perdue has been a Trump loyalist in the state that is increasingly more purple than red. Oh, sound familiar? Republicans are bullish that Perdue can win the re-election, but a risk of a January 5th runoff is real. Unless a candidate wins at least 50%, a third candidate, Libertarian Shane Hazel, is complicating the path. So if a three-person race, if you don't have a single candidate getting more than 50%, they got to do it again with the final two in January 5th. And that means is that if there's not a determination about the Senate on election night, and it's all down to Georgia, we may not know who controls the Senate until January 5th. But there's even more than that. Kansas, it's an open Senate seat race because the Republican Senator Pat Roberts is retiring. Republican Representative Roger Marshall is running against Dr. and State Senator Barbara Bollier. Marshall's the GOP establishment pick and he's favored to win. Bollier is a Republican turned Democrat who's focused on her medical career during the pandemic. Too close a call. And Texas, Senator John Cornyn, who's favored against Democratic challenger M.G. Heger, has consistently led in public polling. A Democratic victory here would be a major upset and would likely be contingent on a surprise Joe Biden win in the state. Texas has also seen a surge in voter turnout across the state, fueling Democratic hopes that polls are wrong and that 2020 is the year that Texas goes blue. Texas has traditionally gone Republican, and the fact that the polls are allegedly a dead heat between Joe Biden and the presidency in Texas may suggest that Cornyn, if I'm pronouncing his name right, may be unseated by a Democrat in his bid to be reelected as a GOP member of the Senate from Texas. So what does this mean for your stimulus check? How much stimulus check? How would it work and where would it work and how would it fold out? Let me go over this right now. What's important to understand is that, if you're new to this channel, let me go over this very simply. For a bill to become a law, it has to be voted and approved in the House, sent to the Senate and voted and approved in the Senate, and then sent to the President and either approved by the Senate, President, or vetoed. And at that point, it can be overwritten by veto by act of Senate. What's important to understand is that you don't get a bill to the president if it's not approved by the Senate. Yeah, there's that little thing you got to do. It has to get voted and approved by the Senate. And as you've seen over the last year or so, the Senate has summarily seen the Temple of Doom's bills and said, you know what, I don't like that. I like this bill. We're going to take it, we're going to toss it in the garbage can. There it goes. We're not even going to vote on your bill. And that did not sit well with the Temple of Doom. Well, guess what? If the Senate says GOP, then the Temple of Doom has to start changing her bills. Because ultimately, by doing partisan bills that are very Democratic and not purplish, that that ultimately, when they land in the hands of a Republican-led Senate, they're going to say, this is very Democratic. I don't really like this. Why don't you write something more moderate rather than giving big bailouts to states and senators? This importantly comes to the point of second stimulus, which is what were the major deal points of the second stimulus that held up your second stimulus checks? Well, first one was bailout of state and local. The Temple of Doom proposed a $900 billion bailout of state and local. And as soon as anyone saw that it had a brain cell and was not Democratic, they said, excuse me? Excuse me, why is the stimulus package almost all bailout of state and local? What does that mean? What is state and local? What is he talking about? Let me explain. What I mean is that when the pandemic hit, some states were unable to make their budget because the businesses were shut down, and those businesses were not generating revenue that is taxed by a state. Here's an example. Let's say a car dealership. There's a lot of car dealerships, for example, here in Southern California. When a car dealership shut down, they're not making money. And the cities are dependent upon the taxes from the revenue the car dealer sells. So if a car dealer sells, a $20,000 car, the city gets revenue for the taxes on that sales tax. Well, when the dealership is closed during a lockdown, the city's not making any money. So as that built up, the cities had big shortfalls. They had loss of money. So the Temple of Doom came and said, okay, we need some money for cities and states that had this big shortfall from the pandemic. Well, how much of a shortfall? When Moody's Analytic and the Governors Associations looked at the number and realized that they only need about $300 billion. They don't need $900 billion. And that's what she proposed, $900 billion, which is the equivalent of grant for 3 years. Well, then on the other side, the Republicans didn't want to give anything, which is untrue. They needed something, the state and local. They didn't. And as you sit here tonight, or this afternoon, the thing that's holding up the second stimulus is the Democrats want to hold up your stimulus check because they still want to give the states some $400 billion, which is uncalled for. And the Republicans, some of them, don't want to give the state and local anything, which is also uncalled for. Ultimately, not negotiating, not compromising, not being purple is being driven by election uncertainty. And after election night, that could all change. What's important to understand is that these are not the only races that are really uncertain. Alaska has been one of those races where they can't even figure out the poll numbers because the terrain and because candidates are independents. It's just a hot mess. But whether it's Alaska, Georgia won. There's also another Georgia race, which I didn't go over. South Carolina. I mean, the NPR did at least, those 6 races where it's too hard to predict. Then there's 7 others that are just, even still within fighting distance. So as you sit here today, how much stimulus should you get? What about Mitch and what about Donald? Well, the important thing to understand is Mitch and Donald are working hand in hand. They actually are working to reelect one another. Second, the path to get your stimulus revolves around nonpartisan action, people compromising, people agreeing to things that are purple, people stop being red and blue all the time. And that helps and works when people understand that they're holding out for a presidential or a Senate outcome on election night. Doesn't happen. Let me go to some incredible comments and questions from yesterday. Roy, Congress is a joke. They need their paychecks while Americans starve. Gamer, they can't call for another lockdown until they do a stimulus package. Who can afford that? We're about to lose everything. So this is actually referring to the video before this. And although it was a video on McConnell versus Trump, this is a comment exactly on point. How can Democratic governors say, get ready to go on a lockdown, if the Democratic leadership did not give you a stimulus check for all months of the first lockdown, and now with the second lockdown, they're not giving you stimulus checks for the new lockdown? It's just like, doesn't make sense. All countries around the world give checks to their citizens when they put them on a lockdown. You're telling people to stay home and not work and not having money? Well, okay, how do they pay the bills? It's at times like this that the federal government is supposed to give people emergency funds. Pat Fuller, the president keeps on talking about making America great. Why don't you go do it? Annette All. What the going on? People's lives are hanging on a toothpick. It's a joke. Louise, with another lockdown coming, we need $7,000 to keep us all, period. Cynthia Lewis, also prayers go to the people hit by the hurricanes. Margaret, so because everyone's giving Joe Biden money doesn't make him the next president, or it shouldn't. He still's not healthy and he's way out of his gourd. Rita Sweet, the American people need another stimulus check now. They're the people going hungry and can't pay their rent. The Donald needs to do executive orders. We need help. God bless. Rita Sweet. Well, thank you for a nice comment, Rita Sweet. Linda Provescher, good evening, Purple Power. Hell, good evening. Stay safe. You too. The Big Diesel. Mitch left a bad taste in my mouth, and he's the reason I'm an independent Republican. I don't want him back, even if he wants to suffer in the first darn place. Crazy Nancy's not an ice cream walk either. She must leave as well. Rebecca, good evening, Purple Power family. LA, let's not let us down. Melissa, you can push all you want, but they're going to do what they want. Oh, no, they're not. That's a comment that doesn't deserve to be on this channel. That's a comment of they're going to do their way and the highway and get ready for the road. No, we're not Toad. Sorry. Roxanne Hodge, Nancy's position is given too much power. It is, Kevin. Darth Pelosi and her empire of doom need to be taken down. Cynthia Lewis, well, if it came from France into the UK and all of Italy and all of them are on lockdown, you can bet the US will follow suit because they'll be the next, like it was the first time. She's basically saying that if Italy, UK, and France all go on lockdown, that we'll go on lockdown as well. Not necessarily true, because in those countries, the federal government determines the lockdown. Here, the state governments determine the lockdown. Zelda, all these different amounts just throw us off. And Dave, if Mitch and Nancy wins, no matter who's president, we're all screwed. No, not necessarily, because ultimately, Mitch winning his seat has nothing to do whether or not the Republicans won control of the Senate. The Senate could fall to the Democrats, and Mitch could be reelected. Denise, I wonder why Nancy is eating lobster. And there you go. If you have questions in the comments of today's video, drop in the comments below. Love those comments. Those are really good comments. And there's nothing better than great comments because it shows the viewers really understand the situation. They're engaged. They're pushing the Purple Power agenda online. Please go on Twitter. Be part of the Purple Power. Push, 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 and get it done. Go to the French channel, subscribe, because we're going to get through this together. One Halloween costume at a time. Also like this video. Coming up next is Pelosi versus Mnuchin. As always, stay informed, stay smiling, and stay with LALATE for more.